Hey all, welcome to the Senior Spinner channel and to the first edition of something new I'm calling On the Record. This is where I'm going to take an album I've actually spent some time with, not just sampled a couple of songs, but listen to from beginning to end and tell you what I've heard. But I also want to go a little deeper than simply telling you whether I liked it. Who are the musicians? Who produced the record? Where and when was it recorded? What's the story behind it? And maybe, most importantly, what should you be listening for if you decide to put this record on your own turntable? For my first album, I picked one that I actually discovered while putting together my first Senior Spinners new vinyl pick show. It's the album Save Ferris, titled It Means Everything. And what I have here is the 2026 vinyl reissue pressed on a really sharp-looking blue, yellow, and black smash vinyl. This is the first time It Means Everything has been released on vinyl, nearly 30 years after the album originally came out in 1997. You can see the blue, yellow, black smash is what they call it. Now here's the first interesting thing about this record. This is a new vinyl release, but it is definitely not a new album. It Means Everything was Save Ferris's debut full-length album, originally recorded on September 9th, 1997 through Epic and Starpool Records. The original release was available on CD and cassette, but nearly 3 decades later, the album has finally received its first vinyl release in 2026. And after listening to it, the word I keep coming back to is fun. It's fast, it's loud, but not so loud that it gets rejected by my LEWD filter. And there's an energy running through almost the entire album. In fact, the opening track, The World Is New, pretty much tells you what you're in for. The rhythm, the tempo, and that driving beat establish the personality of the album almost immediately. If you like what you're hearing on that first track, chances are pretty good you're going to enjoy what's coming. But before we get further into the songs, let's talk about who's making all that noise. Save Ferris came out of the Orange County, California ska scene in the mid-1990s, with Monique Powell handling lead vocals. Behind her was Brian Mashburn on guitar, along with vocals, piano, and organ, Bill Uechi on bass, Mark Harrismendi on drums, Eric Zamora on alto saxophone, Jose Calistanos on trumpet, and T-Bone Willie on trombone. And those last 3 instruments are important: saxophone, trumpet, trombone. Because one of the things I noticed throughout the record was the brass. It's everywhere. But I didn't find it intrusive. Quite the opposite. The horns complement the rhythm section and Powell's vocals extremely well. And they're a major reason this album has such a lively personality. There were additional musicians too. Kid Tracy added tenor and baritone saxophone, while Paul Hampton played Hammond organ and electric piano on several tracks. The album uses violin, viola, and cello, along with orchestration on some of the material. So there's actually quite a bit going on musically underneath what initially sounds like a straightforward, high-energy ska recording. And this wasn't something casually thrown together in somebody's garage. Most of It Means Everything was recorded between April and June of 1997, primarily at NRG and the Hook Studios in Hollywood. The World Is New also involved Front Page Studios in Burbank, while orchestral work was recorded in London. The album was mixed at the record plant in Hollywood and mastered at Precision Mastering. Most of the album was produced by Peter Collins, whose resume included major records by artists including Rush, Queensryche, and Alice Cooper. But productive responsibilities were shared on portions of the record with Clive Goddard, Craig Knapp, and Save Ferris themselves. Goddard also handled engineering and mixing, and Stephen Markinson mastered the album. And I think the production deserves some credit for something I noticed while listening. This album has a lot of energy without simply becoming a wall of noise. I can hear vocals, I can hear horns, I can follow the rhythm. That's important to me. And that brings me to Monique Powell. One of my strongest observations came during track 3, titled Super Spy. There's something about the rhythm, tempo, and beat of this music that seems almost tailor-made for her voice. She's not fighting the band, she's riding it. and that's a distinction I noticed repeatedly while listening to the record. There's a lot happening behind her, but her vocals remain the personality out front. Another thing I appreciated is that many of the lyrics are relatively easy to comprehend. You can actually follow what she's singing. Some of the songs tell little stories, and the lyrics are memorable enough that I could see myself eventually knowing them well enough to sing along. And then we get to track 4, Come On Eileen. Obviously, Save Ferris didn't write this one. Come On Eileen was the enormous 1982 hit by Dexy's Midnight Runners. Save Ferris had already been performing the song, and interest from Southern California radio helped lead to a newly recorded version for It Means Everything. Covering a song that recognizable is risky. Change it too much, and people complain that you've ruined it. Copy it too closely, and there's not much reason for your version to exist. I think Save Ferris found the sweet spot. Their version is every bit as catchy and fun as I remember the original being, but it sounds like Save Ferris, and it fits this album perfectly. Then we get to track 5, titled Goodbye, and this one really caught my attention. The beginning gave me the mental image of a woman in a long gown singing in a nightclub. There's almost this lounge-like feeling to it. And then the song changes. Suddenly, we're moving to something that, to my ears, has almost a salsa-like tempo. And then it moves back again. That back and forth between the two musical personalities was something I found rather unique. It's one of those tracks that made me stop simply enjoying the record and start thinking, wait a minute, what are they doing here? Those are usually the moments that make an album interesting to me. Another one is track 7, titled Lies. This is where I noticed something interesting about how the music supports the subject. The tempo gives me this sense of suspicion. There's something slightly uneasy about it. And considering the song is called Lies, that musical feeling works beautifully. It's a good example of something I've been learning to pay more attention to as I broaden my musical taste. Don't just listen to the lyrics. Listen to what the instruments and rhythm are telling you to. Sometimes they're helping tell the story. And then there's track 9 titled Spam. Yes, Spam, as in the canned meat. The song is 2.5 minutes devoted to Spam, and it's hilarious. There's even a children's choir credited on this track, the Starpool Elementary School Choir, which just makes the whole thing that much more ridiculous. I'm not going to spoil the lyrics because they're part of the fun, but whether you're a Spam lover or a Spam hater, you need to hear this song at least once. It also reinforces my overall impression of the album. Save Ferris doesn't seem afraid to have fun. So, after listening to all 11 tracks, what's my verdict on Save Ferris? It Means Everything. This album surprised me. I probably would have classified Save Ferris as ska-punk, seen the word punk, and applied the L in my LEWD filter and moved along. I'm glad I didn't. Yes, it's fast. Yes, it's energetic. And yes, it's loud. But it's not overwhelmingly loud. There's melody here. There's rhythm. There are horns everywhere. There are understandable and memorable lyrics. There's a terrific lead vocalist whose voice seems perfectly suited to what's happening behind her. And most importantly, it's fun. At roughly 35 minutes long, it doesn't overstay its welcome either. The album gives you 11 tracks, maintains its energy, throws in a few surprises, and gets out. And that's actually one of the things I'm beginning to appreciate about doing these new release searches. This album is almost 30 years old. I've never really explored it. Then somebody decides to finally put it on vinyl in 2026. It appears on a list of 374 new vinyl releases. I stumble across it, and now it's sitting on my turntable. That's exactly why I started looking beyond the music I already know. So for me, Save Ferris, It Means Everything isn't merely vinyl worthy. I bought the vinyl, and I'm glad I did. If you've never heard this record, or if you remember Save Ferris from the 90s, but you haven't listened to the entire album, give this one a spin. And whatever you do, don't skip Spam. This has been a Senior Spinner. Good, get it the right way. This has been Senior Spinner on the record. Until next time, keep spinning and keep discovering.